Hi, John Asen, Director of Instruction down here at 3D Golf Performance. I want to talk to you about a typical problem that we see in our lessons, and this is probably worldwide, that the common shot pattern that most people struggle with is called a slice. And the slice is produced really by an open club face, and then from there, typically, the emotions take over. We want to make the ball go where we need it to go, so we end up swinging the club across the line, outside in, club face still open, and produces a cross-cutting shot that slides to the right. Obviously, this can change from shot to shot, but for the most part, it's a pattern and it's a characteristic in the swing that we need to get rid of as quickly as possible. Now, we have a drill that we use, and we typically don't use PGA Tour players to name our drills, but in this case we call it the Fowler drill, and a lot of people are familiar with the Ricky Fowler phenom who's on the PGA Tour, and he has a little bit of a different or unorthodox swing, in the sense that it typically is a little bit more radical from inside out, and you can honestly see the motion during his swing that creates this. And it's a little bit of the shaft movement and then the behavior of his hands and his hips. So we're going to kind of go through a couple different steps here that'll help you understand this drill. But basically what we're after is getting the common golfer away from setting up open, typically rotating way too much from that position because the shoulders are trying to work hard to get into the backswing and get caught up. And literally what we call pop-out happens in the hands, over rotation of the shaft and the face, and you're basically trying to compensate from there. So first of all, we need to get our sticks down in the ground, and we need to understand that alignments are very important to set up all the way up from the feet, knees, hips, and shoulders, and even into your eyes. You also need to understand ball position needs to be somewhere close to center forward for an 8-iron in this case. And then the alignment of the handle or the shaft, typically if my club face is right here on my stick line, you'll see the club shaft aligned somewhere towards the center of my hips for an 8-iron, slightly maybe forward of that. We also want to make sure that the alignment of the shaft to the left hand hinge pin is in line, so that you have created an alignment that is in line with that hinge pin. We're going to make sure we stay there the whole way. So once we get set up into this type of positioning, then the first move or the first step of this drill is really to push the heel pad of your left hand, pressure point 1. I want to push it down and set the club above the ball, typically 6 to 8 inches. So I've already engaged that pressure point. And then I really just want to take my right hip, and you might see the stripes on my hip here. I want to take the right hip and I want to pull it straight behind me like I'm screwing the pickle jar nice and tight into my right leg like that. So no rotation in my left arm whatsoever. I'm rotating more from the right hip pulling back, and you will see that if I keep pressure down on my left heel pad, that the club shaft now actually is bent the opposite way that the common golfer fights, which is more in. It will leave the club face more outside of my hand line. All right? And this way, I'm around a lot more than I would be in my lower body, and allowing my upper body now to pivot or to step into my right side. So again, from face on, it will look like this. And you can see a nice tilt to my spine. Again, the club shaft is actually bent slightly more in front of me. Club head is definitely outside of my hands. My hip action and knee action, very, very important. And you can see the way my left knee comes forward as my right hip goes back. All right, so a little heel pad pressure, 1 to 2, and I want to just hold this position over and over. And I want to just keep doing it. Now the other way you can do this action without the club in your arms is just using your hands on your shoulders, and then literally from here just work on pulling your right hip back. You're not seeing the shaft angle and the relationship, but you are working on the body position. So very important to break up your drills and use different actions to produce that feel of the new mechanics, because that's really, really important that you feel the mechanics. So once again, for my good setup here, I'm going to pull my right hip back and produce a good step-in pivot into my right side. And I really feel cranked into my feet right now, like I've just tightened the cookie jar. The club head is in front of me. Now I don't feel like going around at all. I feel like going up. This will cock my shoulders and center balance me a little bit. So what this does is it produces a little bit of a trigger for my hips. And what I use is my tailbone to actually center balance me. So I'm working up and cocking my shoulders, which is center balancing me or bringing my upper body back, and therefore my hips move or bump forward. And that's that trigger to start your downswing sequence in the correct order. Typically, if I go around my body, get the bent shaft, I'm going to come around on the way down, and you can see how I'm right over the top of my lower body from down the line. I get it in here, around, and then outside over the top. So that's the typical move that we're fighting, and this drill will work really well. So again, the Fowler drill, club head more in front, beautiful little crank, tightening the cookie jar into the feet. You really feel the torque. Hands are well in, almost off my thigh. Up you go, cock the shoulders. It center balances me by pushing my tailbone towards the target. And now I'm in a sequence that's going to be from the ground up. I get the legs going. So it's back in front, cock it up. And when this happens, when my tailbone starts to move this way, can you see the way the club falls into that base knuckle, pressure point number 3? And look at the angle that it's on now as I start down in my sequence. Again, another view from face on. 1 to 2. Tighten the cookie jar, get the torque down below. Up you go. You can really feel the cocking of the shoulders and the center balancing that takes place. It feels like my tailbone needs to kick out with my hips. And when that happens, I'm obviously stopping the golf shaft, the mass from going in one direction and starting it down. And when that happens, the mass falls into the base knuckle, maximizes my lag pressure because my right wrist bends backwards even greater, which puts a nice condition to the wrists as you're coming into impact. And now I can see that path is going to be traveling down and away from me. So let's put this all together and hit a shot. So you want to go 1 to 2. Get that cookie jar tight, feel the torque in there, and then from there up you go. And what a wonderful flight it produces. Right near my target. Again, I got my screenshot up there. I can bring it up a little bit closer for you. You can see the red line path definitely going out to the right. So again, usually this is going to produce some bigger numbers, which is what we want. 7 degrees inside out, 1 degree open club face, both positive numbers, but the club face is strong in its relationship to the path because it's closed 6 degrees. That's the difference between the two numbers. Produced my draw spin here of 1,044. Incredible speed, 88 miles an hour, 148 yard shot with 153 total distance. Believe me, this drill works. And it takes you as far away from outside in and gets you more inside out, gets you into the alignments and impact that you need. And if you look at Ricky Fowler and you look at a guy like Ben Hogan, who had incredible lag, and that's what they had in common, except that they're both small guys, 150, 155 in weight, they hit it a long way because of this power that they get from that added lag when they download that club like this. So that sequencing is really, really important, and it's so critical that you get rid of the aroundness and then the outside in pattern. Eliminate the slice from your shots, and you'll be a lot happier moving forward in 2013. So good luck with this drill. Keep it in the short stuff, and remember, enjoy the hit.